Hey everyone, welcome to our PD session for teachers only, and I'm so excited to welcome you. I'm regular host here. My name is Anna, and today we are learning all about Microsoft Teams and OneNote for teaching, learning, and community. Super inspiring, isn't it? So we are learning from amazing Team Clarke, and I'm going to invite him just in a few minutes. I would love to ask you a regular question here, actually, which part of the world you're tuning from? What is your teaching role exactly? And my favorite part to know that already, that to see who has already joined us. And I want to welcome Fernando. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much for joining us. And good morning from Salvador, Brazil. Brazil, I'm sorry, I just can't pronounce it in English, with English pronunciation. And and I want to welcome Tamar. She's a great, great teacher. And I love you, you know that. So good morning, good evening from Georgia. Oh my gosh. And Ludmila is here. Thank you so much for joining us from Moldova. Keep sharing, keep joining our amazing live webinar. And I would love to mention that we are going live on Facebook as well. Please do join us on YouTube. The link is attached to our posts on Facebook. That's how you can grab all the resource links, because today Tim is going to share with incredible resource collection that we made on Wakelet for you and with you, because there are so many great videos and tutorials. And also would love to mention, since Tim is amazing Microsoft expert and trainer, he prepared achievement code for you that you can redeem, so all Microsoft experts know what I'm talking about. So you can redeem, you can prove your learning and grab your points. Great, isn't it? So, and if you've got any questions related to our topic today, please drop them in the Q&A box. Don't hesitate, just ask Tim. He's an incredible trainer, and I can't wait to invite Tim Clarke. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, Anna, and what an amazing welcome. So thank you. I hope I live up to that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure I know what you've done, just because of the resources. I don't know about the presentation. You haven't shown me yet, but I know that you're incredible, and your experience in this area is like, wow. I would love to mention that a little bit from your bio, that you're a head teacher of Cornerstone CEB Primary in Hampshire, UK. Cornerstone is a Microsoft Showcase school and focuses on learning always and always, which is really inspiring. I love this one. And Tim is an MIE Expert, as I mentioned before, MIE Trainer, and Microsoft Certified Educator. So I'm going to share the achievement code very soon in our chat, and also it is already in our resource collection. And I'm going to share with the feedback collection, where you can share your insights, wows, and hows. And don't forget that if you share with your excitements, your insights on socials, please don't forget to tag Tim. He's very active on Twitter, and you can learn lots of things from him and myself. And don't forget to use the hashtag #TeachersLoveEdu, and you will get your certificate. So I like watching the way how you learn from us, from these webinars, from the most insightful and inspiring speakers. And so on this positive, lovely note, Tim, I would love to please give a brief overview of the agenda that you've prepared. I know that you've done it.
Yeah, so thank you, Anna. Anna kindly asked me to come along, invited me to have the conversation with you all, and going to focus on using how we use Teams and OneNote, how we've used them in our school, partly in terms of within school, partly when the children or indeed the staff are self-isolating and at home, and also actually we're a church school, so how we've used it within our collective worships to try and bring the whole community together. So I'm just going to start by sharing the slides. Hopefully that's going to happen very shortly. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm slightly grayer in the bit I think I am here. It actually stops. So as Anna said, my name is Tim Clarke. Very proud to be head teacher at Cornerstone in the UK. Lovely to see all the hellos in the comments. So great that so many people are joining us from around the world. And I hope you find this useful. If you've got any specific questions, please do ask them in the chat, or reach out to Anna or myself afterwards on Twitter, and I'm sure we can get back to you. So this is a picture of our school, taken from an architect's design. And as a school, we've got 3 values: love, forgiveness, and hope. but also for us, we have a vision as a school, which is to grow an inspirational learning community. And for us, that's those 3 statements at the bottom, so that we're together igniting a love of learning. And that's us as staff, but it's also with the children. We want the children to be really excited about it. And we then have that encouraging and empowering partnerships. So we see education as something we do in partnership with the children, that we're going on a learning journey with them. It's not something that's done to them. And then with this idea of nurturing a growth mindset. And for us, it's very much about that idea of growing, that it could take years to help people develop their confidence, their skills, their abilities. And again, that's children and staff. So that's us as a brief overview as a school, but I know that we're more interested in talking about Teams and OneNote. So if you haven't come across Microsoft Teams before, and we've only been using it for just over 2 years, but it literally has been something that has transformed the way that we've worked as a school and with our children. So it really facilitates that collaboration and communication between us as staff and teachers, but also us with the children. It allows the children to collaborate, to converse, and actually to share with each other, and the teachers do the same. And I think the key point is that it's a one-stop hub. So everything, whether it's files, whether it's documents, learning activities, resources, conversations, as you can see, the list goes on. But as a staff, we were in a position 2 years ago where we had some things on our server, people had stuff saved on memory sticks or on particular laptops, and if they couldn't find the laptop, they couldn't get it back. But now everything is online, everything's within Teams, everyone knows where to go for those conversations, for those resources. It has been really fabulous, and it has transformed the way we've worked. So if you haven't come across Teams before, this is an example of what it might look like. The very left-hand bar, the column there, the dark blue one, has a series of apps, a series of icons rather, and this is called the MIE space. So where you've got the first one, the activity bell, if that's got a number to it, that means that you've been tagged in a conversation, or there's a post that has been shared that you need to read, or someone has sent you a message. Often when it comes to a Monday morning, that can sometimes read 20 or 30, and it's then about just working your way through that. Underneath that, you've got the chat icon, which allows you to have either a one-to-one conversation or a group conversation. And you can either have that as it would be with text or social media and actually type in, or you can do it as an audio call or as a video call. So it's been really fabulous for us as a school. There have been times perhaps when I've been at the far end of the school and a call has come into the school office for me, and they can transfer it straight through. So I don't have to be in my office. Another occasion, one that I often share, we had a child who went missing before, in fact, school started. And 5 of us as teachers went out in different directions, and we just clicked, and then we were on our mobile phones having a group chat on Teams, keeping each other updated. So really valuable having that built in. The next icon then is Teams itself. So you can have a wide range of teams, and I will share examples of those with you later. The one you're looking at there, as it's highlighted, is our Cornerstone training team. So it's a demo team we have. And this is a staff demo team. I'll also share with you a pupil demo team as well. And then underneath that, you've got assignments and you've got the calendar. So assignments are there if you want to set an assignment for the children. So we've used it both in school and for home learning and for remote learning. And then the calendar is if you're scheduling meetings, all your meetings are seen there. So that's the left-hand side. Next to it, where it says Cornerstone Training Team, underneath it, you can see a lot of subheadings. So these are all the different channels. Again, I will explain those when I do a demo. And then in the middle across the top, next where it says General, there's a series of different tabs. And this is what's called the We space. So you can see that Posts is highlighted because it's in blue and underlined. So that's what's showing in the canvas, which is the area underneath. So you can see there I've done an announcement saying, welcome to Microsoft Teams. This training is being led by Cornerstone Church of England Primary. So you can do a whole series of posts there, and it's a bit like an online staff room notice board. So we're actually at the moment on a half-term week this week, so our school is closed for this week. Everyone's hopefully having a good rest, but occasionally there's some information that needs to be shared. So, for example, I'm updating our COVID risk assessment for what feels like about the 40th time, and I've just shared that as a post on the team, so that when any of my staff log in, they go, oh, Tim's updated it, I'll have a quick read. So they'll read that at a convenient time for them before school starts again next week. The next tab along the top is files. So as it would suggest, all sorts. So there's Word, there's PowerPoint, there's Excel, you can have PDFs in there, and essentially everything that we used to have saved on a server in our school, which could only be accessed in school, is now all saved within files on Teams. You've then got Staff Notebook, which is a link to your OneNote notebook, which is synced with your team. Again, I'll go into that more with a demo. But the other great thing with Teams is you can add extra tabs across the top. So you can start to see where it says Microsoft Educator Center. That's the third word there. So you can add links to websites. You can add other apps in there. We have something called CPOMs, which we use for our safeguarding. So we have a link at the top and the staff can easily access it. So that's an overview, if you haven't seen Teams before, of what the format looks like. One of the things that many of us have done during the last couple of years is use Teams or Google Classroom or Zoom for live lessons. And in terms of scheduling a live lesson, this is again the format of what it looks like. Again, I will do a demo of it, but hopefully you can see that the format there is reasonably straightforward, and it gives you the opportunity to add titles, add attendees, set the date and time, and you can also then add an agenda to it, add documents you might want people to read in advance. And then on the right hand side of the screen, you can see that there's a whole group of options. So you can set it in a variety of ways. It might be a meeting you're scheduling with staff or someone outside your organisation, or it might be a live lesson with your children. And definitely, if it's with the children, you don't want them to enter without you letting them in, and you don't want to give them perhaps too many options to be able to mute and unmute other people. So how have we used it? Over the last 2 years, we've had in the UK a couple of times when we've gone into a national lockdown and schools have been closed. We've still been open to children of key workers and some of our more vulnerable children, but the majority of children have been learning from home. And we've actually sort of taken advantage of this from a collective worship point of view, in that a lot of our families, a lot of our parents don't really understand what collective worship is because they don't come into school and experience it. So what we've been able to do is do our normal weekly collective worships, but by doing it on Teams, what's been fantastic is I was doing it from my office. There would be staff in school with a few children in school who would join from their classrooms, but there would also be lots of families joining from home. And it would allow lots of great conversations in the chat. It would allow us to still connect as a community. And at that time when perhaps people were feeling quite isolated and far away from each other, it actually brought us back together. And so again, the screenshots I've got there for you, just examples of what we do. We started off the year by talking about, well, actually, if we look at the word success, what does it mean to you? And let's explore what that means, because it will mean different things to different people. And it doesn't mean perhaps just, oh, I got the top score in a maths test, or I won that race. Actually, there's lots of different ways that people can be successful. And actually, it's not about comparing yourself to others. Often it's about looking at your own learning journey and how you're progressing. And then the other screenshot I've got there for you is one that we did just around the time leading up to Christmas. And we were with the children looking at, well, how is Christmas celebrated by Christians across the whole world? Actually, for our children, they often think Christmas is only celebrated the way that it's celebrated here in the UK or in their part of the UK. So we were looking at South America, we were looking at Africa, we were looking at Asia, and we were looking at, well, how do people celebrate it there? What sort of traditions do they have? How might it look? What would that look like if they're sending Christmas cards? And again, really, really fascinating for the children to think, actually, I'm not just within my bubble of where I am in the world. What might it look like elsewhere? And I think, that's one of the absolute powers of technology, is that it can help open up so many doors for the children to see those things. Also mentioned the live lessons. So a couple of examples here. So we've got the first example there on the left. The member of staff there is presenting and is sharing their screen. She's sharing feedback with the whole class there. But what she's also then doing is highlighting in green live for the children. So as they're having that discussion, she's using PowerPoint within Teams, sharing that as a screen, and actually annotating and highlighting directly. So again, although some of the children were in school, although the teacher might have been teaching from home and other children were at home, they were still able to have that conversation. They were still able to learn together as a community. The middle one there is just an example of a chat. And interesting, this is one where this was actually only about last month, I think back in January. The teacher was actually self-isolating, but bless her, didn't feel too ill with it, so said, I'm still happy to do live lessons. And it's just an example of the meeting chat, where she's asked a question. They were looking at a poem called The Highwayman, and the children were adding in their thoughts and their comments. And then on the far right there, you've got an example. So as a Microsoft Showcase school, we provide a lot of case studies to other schools to try and support them. And there's just an example there of how we use Teams when we're doing live lessons. So what I'm going to attempt to do now, and it's always dangerous when you're trying to show technology and perhaps it works and perhaps it doesn't work. I'm hoping now that I'm going to be able to share my screen, which will have, hopefully, Microsoft Teams on it. So let's see if we can bring that up. Anna, do please tell me if we cannot see this. I'm just going to carry on as though we can. So I can't see you anymore, Anna. If you're
yeah, it's here. It's on.
Fabulous. Okay, so this is our Cornerstone training team, which again, I hope you can see my cursor pointing things out there.
Yeah.
As I said, we've got a series of channels down the left here, and then we've got all our different bits and pieces up the top. I'm just going to go back to posts. And as you can see, as I click on things, what happens in the canvas is it changes to show that. So here is at the top, we have that post, welcome to Microsoft Teams. But as you can see, other members of staff have said, we're having a COVID briefing, or here's a COVID document, or welcome to our digital training team. So you can put all sort of posts there. And if you want to do a new post, down here where it says new conversation, you click on that. And if you click on this A here with the pencil, it brings up a whole range of different options. So I could just have it as a conversation. I could put a title in here. Or if I wanted to, I could say, I really want this to stand out, so I'm going to make it an announcement. So I can type a headline, I can add an illustration or image to make it stand out, and I can still add a subheading. If I want to make sure everyone gets tagged, I can simply type @general, and that means everybody who's a member of this team will get alerted to this. I can change in terms of bold, italic, underline. I can highlight things. I can change the font color, the size. What's also really helpful, we find, is over here, you can actually share links. So often when I'm sharing stuff with staff, I'll say, oh, and here's a link to this in the team, and here's a link to that. So really helpful to go and look at that.
So you can create hyperdocs just in the post area.
Absolutely. You can, if it's somewhere in Teams, you can just send people to it. So rather than them having to search for it or to find it, they can just click on the link and it will take them straight there. And if they make any changes to the document, it will automatically save. So again, there's no need to save things in Teams. It will automatically update. What you've then got next is, so this is the files across the top. So for example, we might have our policies in there. So we've got our digital vision, our e-safety policy, our IT policy. In our real staff team, we've got about 80 policies in there. But again, it means when you want people to access something or you want them to refer to it, they can go straight to it. You might have things to do with safeguarding. You might have things to do with teaching and learning. We've also got things like our training documents. So if people are wanting to go back and look at examples of what we've done training with them, they can easily go back and get that. Now, the other great thing with Teams is that it's built on SharePoint. So SharePoint is working in the background. So if I was to open this in SharePoint, and Anna, please tell me if it hasn't.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Sure.
Okay, so what you've got here is exactly the same structure, but within SharePoint. And the bonus with this is sometimes our staff say, oh, but what if I delete something by mistake? Well, that's not a problem. So if I go back into the policies here, and maybe on this e-safety policy, maybe someone's deleted it. Well, actually, by opening it in SharePoint, I can come down to this thing down here called version history. And what it will do is it will say, oh, well, in fact, this is one we've only got one version of. But again, in our staff team, we might have 40 or 50 versions. So if someone deletes something by mistake, you can easily bring that back up. So,
Tim, are you demonstrating SharePoint or the general?
Sorry?
Are you demonstrating now the general? Yeah.
I'll come back to general. Yeah. So next along the top, we've got the staff notebook. I will come back to that when I talk about OneNote specifically. I mentioned about Microsoft Educator Center there, but I also said there were lots of other options. And just to prove that that's the case, hopefully you can see here, these are the options you've got. So you can add a website link, you can add a Word document, YouTube.
My favorite part.
There's a whole range of both Microsoft apps, but also lots and lots of third-party apps, which are just fantastic. And the bonus is by putting it there as a tab, bring it into Teams, people don't need to leave Teams. It is that one-stop hub where you can have everything. The other aspects that I mentioned over here was the channels. So when we first started using Teams, we just used the general channel. But what we found was, as we were adding more and more of what was previous on our server, again, it was getting very busy. So what we now have is, for example, we have a CPD channel. So again, anything we post about staff training goes there. Anything to do with CPD or performance management, we put in there. We also have an organizational channel. So anything with health and safety or anything with timetabling goes there. Then we've got a pupils one. The social staff room is really important for us. So if people are planning different events or evenings out, or have got some funny stories they want to share, we encourage them to share it in the social staff room. And then we'll have one for staff and we'll have one for teaching and learning. So those are just examples of the types of channels that you might have and what you might use them for. The other two things we often get asked, I'm just going to delete that one out of the way. The other things we often get asked is, well, how do you schedule a meeting and how do you set up a team? So to schedule a meeting, you can either come over here to calendar, or you can come up to the top right where it says meet. If I click on meet, it will automatically start a meeting with everybody who's in this training team. Now, given that we're on holiday this week, that would not be very popular with the rest of my colleagues. So what I'm going to do is go to the drop-down arrow instead, and I'm going to schedule a meeting. So this is how you would schedule a meeting. I shared this as a screenshot before, but I'm just going to go, well, actually, I'm putting in demo 1. I'm going to add in one of my colleagues, Henry, who knows when he sees demo 1 to ignore it. You can change when it happens. You can change when it starts. What's been really helpful for us is this one at the moment says do not repeat. For example, if it was a daily live lesson, you could put it as daily. If it was a collective worship we're doing once a week, we could put that in. You can then add any extra details. So if it was a live lesson, you might say to children, please watch this video first, or these are the questions we're going to discuss. Have a think about them before we start. Once you've got all of this sorted, you simply go up to the top right and click send. And you can see that has now come up here as a post. So it's deliberately designed that the children will be able to, oh, where is that meeting? It's right there on a post. Or
this is so good, amazing.
Calendar here, and you can see what I'm doing. As you can see, I'm in the moment, I've got a webinar with Anna. There's an example. But here's the demo I've just created. Now, if I click back into it, once I've created it, and again, I'm hoping that you can see this. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to edit it. So here I've got exactly the same format, but with a few additions. So down here, I've got a click to join the meeting. So I could right click that and copy the link. And so I can send it to other people. What I've also got is the meeting options that I showed you on a screenshot before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's just my Wi-Fi is a bit slow. But there you can see name of the meeting, when it's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
You could say, actually, I only want myself to be able to bypass the lobby. I want to make sure that I'm letting everyone in.
And you can edit it anytime, yeah, till the meeting starts.
So, and if you're in the middle of a meeting, so Henry and I were running a training session last week. We started by saying, actually, the attendees can't use their mic because we were presenting for the first half hour. But once we got past that first half hour, we went back into the options while the meeting was live, changed it there, clicked save, and then people who were attending were able to join in. So that was really, really helpful. I'm just going to close that one down, and I'm going to come back to the Teams tab here. I mentioned before you can have more than one team. So here's an example of the number of teams I'm in, and that doesn't include the ones that I've hidden that are previous teams. So the one I was sharing you with was the Cornerstone training team. In a minute, I'm going to show you the class training team, just to see what it looks like if you were doing it with the children. But before that, up here on the top right, this is how you would join or create a team. So once I'm in Microsoft Teams, if I click on that, it may be that someone else has started a team and created it, and they've sent me a join code. Well, I would just add it here. But if you wanted to create a team to work with your staff or a group of staff on a project, or you were creating a team for your class, you would go in here to create team. And there's 4 different options. Excuse me. So the class team is one that will automatically be set up, ready to share assignments, but will also have the options of teacher-only areas which the children can't access. You might go for a professional learning community, and the bonus with that one is that it's very easy to work with people who are outside your community. So I've got one that I work with a group of head teachers. I've got another one where there's a group of us within our county, Hampshire in the UK, who are doing some work on digital leadership with a range of schools. So we have a PLC. And then the one that we started with was a staff team. And again, if you haven't used Microsoft Teams before, this would definitely be where I would recommend starting because it allows you and your staff to play around with it, to make mistakes, to try things out and find out how things work.
Tim, I'm so sorry. I just want to give you a shout out because I haven't known about the categories that you can choose categories when you create new team.
Yeah, and the fabulous thing for that is that because they're already set up for that particular type of team, it means it saves you a lot of the work.
And this comments is just 100% suitable to the situation. An amazing resource, which for sure will make any teacher's life easier, from Fernando. This is so true. And I am using Teams, but I haven't used that feature before that you brought today. Thank you so much. This is my insight.
Brilliant. And I think that's the thing is, although I'm here sharing Teams, I'm learning new stuff about it every week. And whenever anyone shares something new with me or they show how they use it, I always learn something new, which is just great. So this is our class training team. So again, in the general channel, you've got a lot of the same things. You've got posts, files. The interesting one with files in a class team is that there's automatically a folder called class materials. The bonus with this folder is that all the children can view it, but they cannot edit it. So if, for example, and I can't remember, we've got, so here we've got, for example, this is an English document that we might want the children to be able to see, but we don't want them to change. So this is a writing map. We might say, if you're doing this piece of writing at home, don't forget, have a look at your English writing map, and that will be there to support you. So the bonus with a class team is you have this class materials folder, which is view only, but you can easily create as many different other folders as you want. Something I didn't mention before, if I click up here, new, I can create new folders, all of these different types of documents, or it might be a document I already have, so I can easily upload a file or a folder. Again, a tip with that is if you're uploading a whole chunk of folders, definitely do it through SharePoint because it will work much, much quicker. And then the other great thing within the class training team is that you've got the class notebook, which I will come back to again in more detail once I've shared about OneNote. Again, with OneNote, you've got student notebooks, that one there, which only they and the teacher can see. You've got a content library, which is a read-only space. So as teachers, we can share things in there, but the children can't edit it. The space I love most, I have to say, though, is the collaboration space. So it's a space where actually everybody in the class can add to it. And so if you've got children working on group projects, it's brilliant for that to be in there.
Tim, can I interrupt you about the library? I'm a big fan of this. Where do you keep it? On Teams as well, or where exactly?
Where do I keep what? Sorry, Anna. The one.
I mean the library. Yes, all the library is also on Teams.
Yes, so this is all within Teams.
Oh my gosh!
So children, they access everything on OneNote through Teams, so they don't have to go elsewhere. Excuse me. As amazing. What we tend to do though is when we're setting things up, we'll often use OneNote for Windows 10 as the app because it just allows a few more features. So the Teams version is a slightly sort of light version of it.
I know.
So we tend to, when we're teaching with OneNote or we're prepping stuff on OneNote, we'll use the OneNote app, which I'll demo a little bit later on. But just to show here within Teams, you can access assignments there. You can access grades. So these three people, please don't worry, they're not actually students, they're three of our staff. And you can also access insights within Teams. So you can see how many of your students have been active, how many of them have handed in their submissions. Again, because this is a demo team, clearly the staff are quite rightly ignoring that and saying, I'm not so fussed with that. So that is Microsoft Teams.
And can I read this comment from Chris Wynn? Hi, team. I have started to encourage use of Teams in school. Now it's a part and parcel of how we work. Yeah. And yeah, there were some really amazing comments as well. And there was a question from Fernando. I'm not sure, but can you have a look at this? What basic difference is there between Google Workplace for Education and Microsoft? I'm not sure if you're aware of Google things, but
yeah, I have to say I did have a look at Google a couple of years ago because it's a really interesting question, Fernando. So I think basically there isn't much difference. And I think if there is something new in Google, Microsoft will probably keep an eye on it and then try and look at emulating it and vice versa. And again, we were in a situation 2 years ago where we were, as staff, we were using 365 for our emails and we were using Word and Excel, but we actually had a Google Calendar. And one of the issues we had was some staff not remembering what their login was for one and not for another, which is why we decided because we were mainly using the 365, we would go with that. So we've now got our Outlook calendar. But I think actually, whether it's Google Classroom or whether it's Microsoft Teams, I think they essentially do very much the same thing. The other thing that we found with Teams was there was so much free online learning through the Microsoft Educator Center, which is now moving to Microsoft Learn. For us was also a real positive. But for us now, we've got all of our staff able to access everything on any device. So again, 2 years ago, some of our support staff said, well, I can't get on a laptop, so I can't read that document, or I can't see that bit of information, or I can't remember my password for my email. Whereas now, all of our staff, they've got the Teams app, they've got the OneNote app on their phone. So you've got support staff who can see, well, what's the teacher teaching today? I can actually see their notes. I can see their lesson plan on OneNote. Oh, Tim's posted something on Teams. I can see that on my phone. And I think, again, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, whether it's Apple, whether it's Zoom, whatever the platform, I think by going on the cloud and having that really open access to all staff, it's also made it a lot more democratic, made it a lot more transparent because everybody, whatever their role, can access it. And just going back to your point, Chris, about using Teams in school, absolutely. As I said at the beginning, it is transformed. Literally, 24 months ago, I was walking into school with my memory stick in my bag. At times when a member of staff would perhaps be off on a course and they'd have taken their laptop with them and all their planning and all their resources for the lesson was on the laptop and not on the server. And they were going, right, well, we'll have to email them, but they're not picking up. What are we going to do with this? So it was really quite, it feels
complicated.
Yeah. And, it's been amazing. So if everyone's all right, what I'm going to do is just reshare and just now talk about OneNote specifically.
Can I disturb you with one more question from Fernando? Can you share or access the activities you create in Teams with other platforms? Do you mean like with the apps that you've demonstrated, right? About this success?
Yeah, so we use a number of
big number
Microsoft apps, so we can embed forms very easily. Our older children, now 9 to 11-year-olds, were recently creating sways within groups within their classes, and so that was posted on their team, and they just clicked on the link. But then last week, for example, our Year 6s, they were using ThingLink and Wakelet. They've been looking at different body systems in science, so whether it's the heart and the circulatory system or the digestive system, and they created interactive posters on ThingLink. The link to that had been shared with them on Teams, so they clicked on the link, they created their own posters, they then added it to a Wakelet, which was again shared within Teams. So although they were using third-party apps, which were absolutely right for those tasks, they were able to access the links directly from it. I've got a group, for example, of our digital leaders. We're at the moment busy trying to create New York in Minecraft.
Wow.
Because that's a project that our older children do later on this year. And what we want to do is we're creating a sort of a ground map for them that then the other children can go in and create buildings for. And again, very easy, just share the link with them through Teams. They can then access it, we host it, and we're all in there building together. So it's just, as I said, it's that communication and that collaboration all within one space. And it's fabulous. And again, the children are brilliant with that. They'll be, I've got one of those digital leaders who, even though we're on a holiday, he's sending me messages saying, oh, forgot to tell you last week, Mr. Clarke, laptop 3 and laptop 7, Minecraft's come off them. And so we need to sort that when we're back in school next week. Thanks for that. That's really helpful, but you're on holiday, but you can still reach out and tell me that. Sorry, Anna, were you going to add something?
That's amazing. Nice is a good word. I love it. Lots of apps and lots of integrations. Yeah, we need this these days because lots of tabs for our students and for us personally, it's really complicated, makes things really complicated. We don't need it. The easier is better.
Keep it simple, definitely. So if it's all right, I'll just go back to sharing.
Slide? Sorry.
That's all right.
PPT, you mean? Okay. Yeah, very true. Yeah, that's right, Ursula. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm so bad at pronunciation, names sometimes. But yeah.
Anna,
Gilshan.
Up at all or not?
Can you repeat that?
Have the slides come back up at all?
Yeah, sure. It's on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so done the demo of Teams. So just now I want to talk about OneNote. And as I said, the bonus is OneNote is built within Teams. So again, the children don't have to go elsewhere, which is great. So it's a digital note-taking app. If you haven't used it before, or if you're using Teams, but again, the call we were on last week, the session Henry and I had last week, lots of people using Teams but hadn't considered how they could use OneNote. It's a brilliant way of collaborating together. So again, as a staff, we have so many ways that we'll use OneNote when we're planning things, excuse me, together, and you're able to embed a whole wide variety of media within it, which is great. I appreciate that there is a huge amount of information on the screen there, and I'm not expecting everybody to be able to read all of that. But what I will do is show you this when we demo. The first box there is the insert one, so you can insert tables and files, pictures, online videos, links, whole range of things. The second one down is the Draw tab. So you can add text, you can digital ink, you can use your mouse to put ink on there, you can highlight, you can add shapes, you can use rulers, you can add maths equations. So there's a whole range of things you can draw. And then finally, on the view, you've got Immersive Reader built into OneNote, which is one of the most amazing apps there. I was just busy actually last night when prepping for this, checking that it would translate into Russian if I needed it to, and it does.
Oh my God.
Because I thought that might be part of the live demo.
You're amazing.
So the other thing within View is you could obviously make it smaller, larger. You can change the background color. So again, if you've got a child who perhaps has some visual impairments, can't read stuff on a white background, you can, rather than printing it out onto a different colored paper, you can just at a click of a button.
This is my students' favorite feature. I don't know why, but this color, when they know, they're aware of the fact that they can change the background color. That inspires them so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also the fact that they can, the fact that it's built in, the fact that they can actually set their own preferences. So if they're using, when our kids are using OneNote in the class, yes, they might change the background color. We've got some children perhaps who struggle a bit with their reading, so they'll open
dyslexic learners.
Reader, they'll hear it read to them, they'll put headphones on, hear it read, and then they can get on with the learning. And they're far more independent, and actually they're far more enthused. And it goes back to that idea of them being partners on their learning journey, not having to wait for an adult to come over and read it to them. But you can also add a whole range of rule lines. So you can have horizontal lines, you can have maths lines of grids, and you can also then translate, you can check accessibility to make sure that it'll be clear for everyone. So all of that built into OneNote, which is fabulous. Here's something that, again, I think we might have briefly seen, but this is how you would assign something. So here's a screenshot of me being in my class demo team, clicking on assignments, very similar to scheduling a meeting in that there's a title, you can give instructions, you can add resources, so you can add a OneNote page, but you can add other, maybe videos, maybe a document. If you want to, you can add a rubric. So you can say, well, you get 5 points of this, 4 points of this, 3 points of that, which then speeds up you giving feedback. And you can assign it to different teams. So in this one, I'm assigning it to the demo training team. It's going to all students, but you could also send it to individuals. So that's really built-in, fabulous opportunity, fabulous part of it. And then just to share a couple of examples before I do the demo. So these are part of our home learning. So for our 7-year-olds to 11-year-olds, they use Teams and OneNote in school, but also all of our home learning is done through it. So you can see there screenshots of this is what the teachers have set them. The children then access it from home on any device, and they can either add text at the side, they can type into it, they can use dictate, so they don't even have to type, they can speak into it. The second one along, you'll see that there's a little PowerPoint with a little white triangle in the middle. So we have a series of what we call on-demand learning videos, which are recorded PowerPoints. So again, the teachers can do that pre-learning with the children or that over-learning with them. They can say, re-watch this video before you do the home learning. And it will be specific to us and to what we've done in school, which is really fabulous. And then here's some few more examples. And these are ones that are from literally the last sort of 3-4 months. These are children who've been at home self-isolating, and these are some of the things that they've been doing. So they've accessed the same learning as the children in school. They've been able to add to it. They've been able to undertake the learning, and the teachers are able to give them feedback. So again, OneNote being built into Teams, they can send a message through Teams to the teacher can message them back. They can then submit their OneNote self-isolation learning, the teacher will get notified of that, and the teacher can give them feedback directly within OneNote, which is really fabulous. So again, I'm just going to try and share my screen. Actually, I'm just going to do that first, make sure I'm in the right place. And
okay,
let's see if this works.
Yeah, Tamar has just shared that she has activated the code, the achievement code. Yay. So I've dropped this in the Q&A box. Please do prove your learning And if you know that you're a Microsoft expert, you know the field where you can insert it and grab your points for learning, because it's super essential. And I love the comment from Fernando. I have already shown this about the teachers must get acquainted with the use of technology in the classroom. Yes, that's
brilliant. Thank you for those comments, and it's really great. And I'd love to at the end to answer any questions that have been picked up, and to also pick up tips from other people. Can I just check, Anna, are you seeing my OneNote for Windows 10 notebook now?
not yet.
Okay, in which case I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, the sharing part, I told you, that's always like lots of fun. And yeah, thank you so much. If you watch us on Facebook, sometimes we can see a beautiful name, so please do make sure that you join us on YouTube, so we will see your name for sure there or here. So we're everywhere, and this is my favorite part. There are so many options on OneNote and on Teams. That's like the biggest spaces I know, like I've ever heard of. I just can't compare this to anything else these days. That's so true.
Right, I'm struggling to. It was working when we practiced before, wasn't it, Anna?
Yeah. Things happen. Things happen.
For some reason, you've got to have something going on with the technology, haven't you?
Yeah, it's here. Yay.
Okay.
Yay.
So can I check then? Can we now see the OneNote for Windows 10? Brilliant. Yeah. Got there in the end. And again, I think that's one of the key things that we say to the staff is we all make mistakes. We all find some things tricky at times, and it's just finding ways of working around it. So what I'm going to show you now is, rather than OneNote within Teams, this is the OneNote for Windows 10 app. So this is, we've downloaded it all on our staff laptops, but also staff have got it on their phones. And it just gives, as I said earlier, those more opportunities. So this is the staff training team. So there'll be a collaboration space for everybody to be able to access and edit. There's a content library, which is read-only. And then all our staff also have private notebooks. So only they and the owners of the team can see it. And then down the side here, you've got those different spaces. So for example, these are how we use the collaboration space. Please remember, this is a demo, so it's not got everything in it, but we'll use it to put our staff meeting notes in. So if a member of staff is absent, they can still go back and see it. We put all of the presentations in there, all the resources. We also, for example, have, and I'm just going to hide the authors for the minute. We also have a whole section about Microsoft training. So you can see down here, this is the sections column. These are the pages. So within Microsoft training, we've got, well, this is our induction pathway. If you want to find out about Microsoft Teams, there's a whole series of different things, and people can add to this because it's in the collaboration space. If people find something that is useful, they'll just add to it, which is great. So for example, there's something on Word, PowerPoint, and it goes on. One of the things we've been looking at recently is Canva, because they've done a lot more integration within with OneNote. Unfortunately, oh, they are showing up good. So again, what we did was we created a whole range of backgrounds in Canva, very quick and easy, lots of different options. And so if teachers are teaching, rather than it always being a plain background, we can say, well, actually, have one of these, do something a bit different, and have your lesson on the background of this. So there's a whole range of different ways that you can integrate within that. In terms of the content library, as I said, this is an area where we might put things that we want people to access, but we don't want them to change. So that's our staff one. If I click out of that though and show you the demo of the children's one, we've got more examples in that. So collaboration space is again one that everyone can access. Everyone can, and I haven't got anything saved in there, so I'll go to the content library. This, for example, here's a great example. This is our year 3 and year 4 staff. So they're using, or we're using as a school, OneNote to actually, as well as plan, we're using it to teach. So rather than having to create a plan, and then create a load of resources to share. So this is their maths planning for multiplication division. There's their planning overview there, which is basically just copied in from an old Word document. But then what they've got is they've got each of the lessons. And again, the thing with OneNote is it's expandable as a canvas. So you can go as far right as you want. You can go as far down as you want. And as you can see, the teachers started with some questions, but you can see they're working out that's there. And again, if you've got children who perhaps were absent, you can share this with them. You can say, look, this is what we discussed. This is what we've been doing. And it's all within that one place. So that's some maths work. They've also been doing some work on Pompeii and learning about that in their learning quest for history. So again, here's their planning format. And again, because it's in OneNote, all the staff can access it. So all the support staff can see it. And then what they've got here is this is their planning. This is their teaching. So they've got all their different lessons. They can add in pictures. They can add in clips. They can put in questions, which they can then add to during the lesson. They're using this as an example to overlearn some English. So what are the word classes? So within the lesson, the kids will say, oh, well, city, that's a noun, and walls is the name of something, Pompeii is the name of something. And again, it's all within this one section. So you can just see, and I appreciate I'm clicking through quickly, but I'm just trying to show you examples of how powerful this can be from a teaching point of view.
Wow.
What
so many amazing resources.
Absolutely. And in a class team, the OneNote with that comes with a teacher only. So it may be as a teacher, you're wanting to prepare things, but you don't want the children to see them straight away. So for example, here's our example of our Year 6 home learning. So you can see they've got each of the half terms there, and they've got it set up. But maybe when they were preparing the 17th of February, the teacher might have prepared that back in January and didn't want the children to be able to access it. So by creating it here in the teacher only, it means that only they can see it. And as you can see, they've got grids put in there, they've got pictures put in there, they've got resources from elsewhere. So the teacher's not created this section here. They've just found that somewhere and they've added it as a picture. And if you set a picture as background, so if I go to insert here, if I go to picture, if I was to find a file from there, and then when it's there, you click on it, right click on it, and you set picture as background.
I didn't know about that feature on OneNote.
Yeah, children can then write over the top of it. So they don't have to have a box to the side. They can literally just ink or type or dictate over the top, and it won't change the picture. So really, really useful. The other thing is if you haven't used OneNote for setting assignments, you can do it, as I showed earlier, through Teams, but you can also do it directly through OneNote. So up here it says class notebook. Excuse me. If I click on that, I can decide, right, this page here, the 17th of February, I want to distribute it now. So I click on distribute page, and I can either say I want to send it to an individual, or I want to send it into a group within my class, or I can send it to actually numerous classes at the same time. Wow. Or it might be, I don't want to just send this one. It might be that we're looking at our natural disasters, and there's a whole series of different things here that I want the children to be doing, and this is something I want them to be able to access at home as well. So actually with this whole section, I'm going to distribute this whole section rather than just one particular page. You can copy sections to content library. You can create new class notebooks from here. You can manage them. So huge amount of things that you can do within that. And I'm just going to try and see if I can find a decent amount of text somewhere.
Yeah, it's really great. It's really great for project work, amazingly.
Absolutely. And going back to a question someone was asking about what you can add in. So this is, I run an after-school tutoring group with some of our older children, and we were looking at decimals, percentages, and fractions, and I think this is the right one. So we had this as a OneNote. I distributed it to them. It had this picture so they could go back to it because we were looking at equivalent fractions, decimals, and percentages. But then I asked them the key question, what advice do we have when solving problems? They've then created this. So this wasn't me. I just asked the question. And then what I've done is embedded a Microsoft form directly within it. And the bonus of this is, because it's embedded within OneNote, well, actually, I can start answering this directly within OneNote. I don't have to come out to the form. I hope I get that right. But I can just do it directly within here, which is really, really fabulous. So I hope that gives everyone an idea. I'm going to try now stop sharing. I think Anna's managed to do that for me. I hope that's given people an overview of some of the features within both Teams and OneNote. But really, if anybody ever asked me, well, if you could only keep, one app that you've developed or one use of digital technology you've used over the last few years, for me, it would have to be Teams, because you can do everything within it, and for OneNote being so powerful within it. So I hope that's been helpful to people who've joined us.
A lot.
I'm sure that there's some questions there. Thank you, Anna, for inviting me. And I know that you've shared the resource collection, which I hope is also helpful. Please remember my Twitter handle is there. Please do reach out if you've got any other questions. But happy now, Anna, to hand back to you if there's any questions or conversations to have with everybody.
So many. You've mentioned some features. There are lots of features. It's like universe of features, and it's keep updating all the time. That's what I love the most about Microsoft educational tools, and that's the accessibility, immersive reader, one love, and I loved all the features you brought. So some insights for me, but I've been using these tools. But thank you so much, and amazing webinar. Thank you so much, Fernando, for joining us. Very useful, super useful for teachers. For me, I'm super interested in Microsoft Teams these days, because I think this is like the future for every classroom, school, and and more community. And of course, it's incredible space where we can keep everything. And I love the organization feature. So it's that you can set everything, like every teacher can get access to this settings. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
So any last words from you, team, about this?
No, I think I've probably said enough. And as I say, hope it's been helpful. But yeah, I'm really keen, as I said, to keep learning myself and to keep networking with people. So again, Anna, so many thanks for inviting me to come and talk.
Thanks, everyone. Please do check the Q&A box if you watch us on Facebook. Check it out on YouTube. And don't forget about the feedback space, or just post your insight highlights, captures that you have taken from the session on Twitter. Don't forget the hashtag. And please don't forget to stay safe and keep learning and grabbing the tools that work for you and for your classroom. This is super essential. I want to say thank you so much, team, because you are amazing. And this... there's so much information about these two platforms, tools, but you covered them in a very informative way. Thanks for insights from my side. And I know that people loved your speech today, your presentation, amazing presentation. Thanks for resource collection. I've shared it, and the achievement code is already there in the Q&A box. I had a great time. Thank you so much, Fernando. I love that you're so active. And I remember you since the previous webinar, amazing. And I love your groups. And so our teachers are like this. We like learning and teaching and sharing. Thanks again, team, and everyone who joined us today. All the resources are in the Q&A box. Take them, grab them, and thanks so much for joining us again. So stay safe, and bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone.